What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Who Wants to Brawl YouTube channel. That is not a question, that is a statement. My name is Who, and I'm letting you know I want to brawl. Here, we're all about the Magic format brawl, specifically in regards to Magic Arena, so we don't have to worry about budget, we only have to worry about wildcards.
Today we have an upgrade video. Being the singleton format, Brawl is in a position where you could take a few old cards out and put in new cards and the deck can still function pretty much the same. So today we're going to be looking at cards we can take out to put in cards that might make the deck a little bit better. Our first update when it comes to Kaldheim is going to be the lands. Kaldheim introduces snow-covered lands, so we're going to take out all basic lands that are not snow-covered and put in snow-covered in their place. Then we're also going to take out all of the lands that enter the battlefield tapped and gain a life when they enter the battlefield for snow lands. The functionality of the snow super type is far more important than the one life we'll gain, save for a few niche circumstances in a life gain deck. So why don't we swap out all those non-snow covered lands for snow covered lands. The first deck we're going to look to upgrade is Zalortha. For those that may not remember or may not have watched the video, Zalortha is a 5-mana 7/3 trampler that says lethal damage dealt to creatures we control is determined by their power rather than their toughness. So our first upgrade is going to be swapping out a mountain and putting in Notvold Slumber Mound. It enters the battlefield tapped, adds a red, and then for 6 mana tapping it and sacking it, we can destroy a land and create a 4/4 green troll warrior creature token with trample. Doing this just takes out a mountain for a low downside, high upside card, and there's really not much reason not to do this. And then we're going to take out Frenzied Raptor and put in Notvold Recluse. As a 3-mana 4/2 without reach, Frenzied Raptor is strictly worse than a 3-mana 4/2 with reach. It's a pretty simple upgrade. And then we're going to take out Embereth Skyblazer and put in Battle Mammoth. After playing around with the deck, while Embereth Skyblazer seemed like it would be a good idea, it is not very often we end up activating its ability, and therefore having a creature that draws a card whenever our creatures are targeted would be a much better fit in this deck. It also has the foretell upside of being able to come out a turn early, meaning it comes out the turn Embereth Skyblazer comes out anyway, and it would just be a better card in the deck. It packs a more powerful punch and doesn't have an ability we won't use very often because it takes up too much mana. And our final upgrade for Zalortha is going to be taking out Hunter's Edge and putting in Blizzard Brawl. While yes, Blizzard Brawl fights and doesn't just deal the damage, having those snow permanents around is almost automatically going to happen after upgrading our land to the snow-covered land. And dropping the spell from 4 mana to 1 mana and giving it indestructible seems like much more of a worth it payoff than just putting a 1/1 counter on it. Making this switch is an easy upgrade. The next deck we're going to upgrade is Grakmaw Skyclave Ravager. For those that don't know, or those that didn't watch the video, Grakmaw is a 3-mana 0/0 that enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters. Whenever a creature we control with a +1/+1 counter dies, we put a 1/1 counter on it, and then it leaves behind a Hydra creature token equal to the number of 1/1 counters that were already on it. So our first upgrade is going to be taking out the first Iroan games and putting in Blessing of Frost. For those that didn't watch my set review for Kaldheim, I specifically mentioned that I thought Blessing of Frost is a better version of the first Iroan games. It pretty much puts more +1/+1 counters on it when you account for snow, and you draw the cards immediately. For our next upgrade, we're going to take out Yorvo, Lord of Garenbreg, and put in Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. So at first glance, it might not seem like an upgrade, taking out a 3-mana and putting in a 6-mana card, but when you factor in Yorvo's casting cost and Vorinclex's upside, it becomes a much easier upgrade to swallow. This deck already wants to add +1/+1 counters, and Grakmaw enters the battlefield with 3, so having Vorinclex on the battlefield to double those is just going to be absolutely devastating. On top of his upside of shutting down opponents' planeswalkers and other cards that add counters, this seems like a simple upgrade. And then we're going to swap out Stonecoil Serpent for Iska's Chariot. We almost never want to cast Stonecoil Serpent for less than 4 mana anyway, So having two 2/2 bodies come in with Isuka's Chariot seems like it would be a 1-for-1 swap anyway. And then when you throw in the upside of being able to clone Grakma's tokens, especially the larger tokens, this also becomes a fairly easy upgrade. Our next upgrade for this deck is taking out Vastwood Fortification and putting in Snakeskin Veil. Having the upside of giving our creature hexproof outweighs the upside of having this card being able to enter the battlefield as a land. We're already running enough land and enough double modal face cards that I don't think we need to have a strictly worse version of Snakeskin Veil just in case we need it as a land. Our next upgrade, we're going to take out Eat to Extinction and put in Binding of the Old Gods. So I think giving up the exile at instant speed is worth it for destroying any permanent, not just a creature or planeswalker, and being able to ramp. Some players may disagree with this, but I think giving up the instant speed is worth the ramp. And then for our final upgrade with Grakma, we're going to take out Renata and put in Boreal Outrider. This is another obvious upgrade. Bringing this card slot down from 4 mana to 3 mana seems absolutely worth it, especially when the only thing we're giving up is the potential for Renata's high power if we have a lot of devotion to green, which isn't even always guaranteed in this deck anyway. So after making all of our lands snowland, this seems like an obvious and easy upgrade. The next deck we're going to be looking to upgrade is Zirda. Zirda is 1 and 2 red-white hybrid. It's a 3/3 and says activated abilities we control cost 2 colorless less to activate. This can't reduce the activation cost below 1 though. And then for 1 mana and tapping it, target creature can't block this turn. So for this deck, our first upgrade is going to be taking out Sanctuary Smasher and putting in Dragonkin Berserker. Sanctuary Smasher is really only in there to cycle, draw a card, and give a first strike counter to a creature. With this upgrade, we can add to our board earlier, and then with Zirda out, we can start pumping out dragons with a reduced cost. And then we're going to take out a mountain and put in Tyrite Sanctum. With Zirda out, we'll be able to actually make Zirda into a god and give it a indestructible counter fairly easily with this. Reducing that first ability down to 1 and that second ability down to 2 is actually going to make that fairly stomachable. And then we're going to take out a Plains for Axeguard Armory, which enters the battlefield tapped, adds a white, and then for 1 red, red, and white, we can tap it, sack it to search our library for an equipment and or an aura and put them into our hand, then shuffle our library. This is an obvious one. Having that activated ability upside is worth having this enter the battlefield tapped. And then we're going to take out Eidolon of Obstruction for Maskwood Nexus. This one is a little bit harder of an upgrade, and this is one I might end up revisiting at the midway point of the Kaldheim season. But for now, I'm looking at this as being able to pump out a 1 mana 2/2 every turn, and I like the idea of doing that. And then Starnheim Unleashed and Quakebringer are cards we can put in to give the deck a little bit more power and a little bit more attacking prowess. And we could take out cards like Scavenged Blade and Sleeper Dart, both of which only play minimal roles in the functionality of the deck anyway. And then our final deck we're going to provide upgrades for is Rankle, Master of Pranks, which is 4 mana for a 3/3 flying haste that when it hits a player, we can choose one. Each player discards a card, each player draws a card and loses 1 life, or each player sacrifices a creature. So the first upgrade we're going to do is taking out Clackbridge Troll and putting in Blood on the Snow. Clackbridge Troll is only in our deck to help us draw cards, and I believe being able to wipe the board and then reanimate a creature, most likely Rankle, is worth giving up that potential draw engine. And then Liliana, Waker of the Dead, is only in our deck to remove a creature, so putting in a 4 mana exile target creature or planeswalker seems like a worthy trade, especially when you consider we can do that at instant speed with Feed the Serpent. There were times I put Liliana, Waker of the Dead, onto the battlefield, used its minus ability with only 2 cards in our graveyard to take out a 2/2, and then didn't even want to activate the +1 ability because I wanted to keep everything in my hand. So this seems like an obvious upgrade. once you actually played with the deck. Poison the Cup is just a much more versatile version of Reave the Soul. We can cast it at instant speed, we can pay it for just 3 mana, we can foretell it. It's just a much better card. Unbreakable Bond can come out of our deck, even though we do want to reanimate cards in this deck. We still have a few ways of doing that, and the upside with Terror Grid seems to be impossible to overlook. With Terror Grid, whenever we make our opponent discard a creature card or sacrifice a creature, we get those cards, and since we're doing both of those every turn with Rankle, the upside on Terror Grid is impossible not to put in this deck, and I think Unbreakable Bond is a card we can part way with, especially at the same converted mana cost, and I think we can be okay with this trade. And then Piper of the Swarm is 2 mana to cast, and then for 2 mana creates a 1/1 black rat. This card is only in there to pump out fodder to sacrifice with Rankle, and I think Rise of the Dreadmarn accomplishes that goal in a much more efficient way. And while the life drain is great on Iara, and being able to tap her to sacrifice a creature and draw a card is nice, with Rankle we're already sacrificing creatures, and sometimes having to sacrifice 2 creatures, one to Rankle's ability and one to Iara, is just a little bit too much to ask. So taking out Iara and putting in Draugr Necromancer, which whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, we exile it, and then we can cast that card from exile as long as we pay snow mana for it, seems like a swap I'm willing to make, especially when considering Rankle pretty much makes their opponent sacrifice a creature every turn. And that does it for this video. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, share with a friend to help the channel grow, hit that bell icon to make sure you get notifications about new videos to make sure you don't miss anything. I also want to give a shout out to my buddy Rob Slota for making the Who Wants to Brawl logo. He's a tattoo artist, and you can check out his Instagram by following the link in the show notes below. You can email me at whowantstobrawl@gmail.com. My Twitter is @brawlwho. I also stream on Magic Arena at twitch.tv/whowantstobrawl. Check me out on Sundays at 11 in the morning, where I stream last week or next week's deck tech. On Mondays, I stream random decks. Sometimes I do Brawl, sometimes I'll even throw in a draft. I also stream a random day of the week, or at least I try to. This is Random Games. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll let you know when I'm going to play ahead of time and what I'm going to play ahead of time. But for now, this is Who letting you know I no longer want to brawl. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.